Hey guys, Windsor here, and welcome to the Groove Guru podcast. Today, I want to talk about something that came to me a few days ago. I was at the sauna, as I often am, and thinking about what would be fun to explore next for the podcast, and nothing was coming to mind, so I put it on the back burner, trusting the mind's innate creativity to come up with something and bring me some fresh ideas. And after having a drink of water between sauna sessions, my mind opened and the words uncovering emotional resilience popped into my head as clear as a bell. So let's look in that direction. The topic of resilience is something that comes up a lot in psychology, and I want to explore it in a way that you may not have considered. And if you have, I invite you to open to seeing the heart of what I'm pointing to even deeper. Looking at the word resilience, it points to jumping back, leaping back, or you could say springing back. And that implies moving away from somewhere to returning somewhere. And what I'll be pointing to in this episode is a return to our true nature, which, as I see it, is at the heart of where resilience really comes from. A great metaphor for resilience that I love. It's like how palm trees bend in the wind, and then when the wind subsides, they return to their original upright form effortlessly. And just like palm trees naturally do that, we can naturally do that when we understand the nature of the mind at a deeper level. And as I see it, at our core, we're super resilient and often don't recognize that due to an innocent misunderstanding about how the mind works. In traditional psychology, the approach is based not on mental health, but mental illness. And resilience, too, is often approached by trying to change problematic thinking from the same level that it's created at. So in the traditional therapy model, patients go into therapy and they talk about their problems and they talk about their thinking that's bumming them out, essentially, and make a thing of it. And then the psychological process tries to change that thinking after the fact, after it's been created, which it flies in the face of one of Einstein's insights that now resonates with me at a much deeper level than before. And that's that we cannot solve our problems with the same level of thinking that created them. And before I had a deeper insight into that, I would go to psychologists and talk about my problems and my depressed thinking that I was creating, that I didn't realize at the time. And we would slosh around in it, and I would leave the sessions never really feeling any better, but I didn't know any better than that at the time. And it wasn't until I had a deeper insight into the work of one of my greatest teachers, the Scottish mystic Sydney Banks, who pointed to the nature in his work of our perfect mental health and resilience. It wasn't until then that I really uncovered the mental health and resilience within me and every person at a much deeper level. And when I realized what the nature of that true mental health is within, quite simply, all of my depression melted away. I saw that I was creating it and that I could stop creating it and prolonging it. And I don't know how this happened at the time, but it just happened. And I started to see through the scam it was, that the depression was a thought illusion that my thinking was conjuring up. And though it felt real, it wasn't the truth. It wasn't who I really was at a deeper level. And I didn't need to buy into that thinking anymore. And as I felt more and more into that feeling of mental health and accessed the space beyond thought content, I realized what the feeling of love truly is. Now, not what my parents or other people or things gave me from outside, but a space of pure consciousness inside, that it's the same space we're born into as babies, which is still there, just that it gets covered up with all the thinking that we do. And over time, it can be forgotten. But we can absolutely wake up to it again. And as I see it, that's some of the best news ever. And that purely free, unencumbered mental space, that's who we really are beneath all the noise in our head. In that space beyond the blur of our personal thinking, it's not just the key to directly accessing our mental health, but greater resilience, ease, happiness, enjoyment of life, and it's also really practical. Now, without going to cloud nine for the whole of this podcast, let's get back to resilience. Another way of thinking about how resilient that we are, it's about how well we can get over difficult emotions and experiences. And considering that, I've found it really helpful to look at where our experience comes from. And I'm not just talking about our past memories. One of the things that I share with people that I mentor and coach is that life works in the opposite way to how we've been taught that it does. And I've noticed that most people get on some level that their experience of life, it comes from and has something to do with their thinking. But when asked about it, they don't see that, and they often think that their experience, it comes from the world out there. The external circumstances, their job, their relationships, and their hobbies make them feel a certain way. But I've come to see that our moment-to-moment experience is always created from within us, from what our mind's doing, 100% of the time, which is pretty mind-blowing and pretty game-changing when you see it. Now, we may think, if I get that job that I want, or that partner that I want, or that gig, or that six-pack, then I'll be happy. Or when I solve all my problems, then I'll be happy. But so often we can create what it is that we want to create in the world and get a temporary buzz, but often it doesn't last. Now, here's what I'm saying about that. It's that we don't experience the world out there. We experience our perception of what's being created from within us, from the inside out, via thought. Another way of saying that is that we're always living in the feeling of our thinking, of what our mind's doing. And quite profoundly, the only experience that we have is of our state of mind. A personal example of how I've seen that play out recently, the most powerful and profound one that comes to me for the moment is the event of when my dad passed. And when that happened, it was fascinating to me to notice that my experience of the event varied quite a bit, even though the situation hadn't changed, that my father, his body was no longer animated in this world, whatever way you want to put it. And initially there was, sadness about it. Then there was gratitude for the beautiful, loving relationship that we had and lots of beautiful memories. And then a profound, deep acceptance and peace that I couldn't change the situation. And it resonates is that it's such a clear example showing that as thought changes, our experience changes, and that our experience is never coming from the external circumstance or circumstances out there in the world, but is always coming from within. And when I see to the fact of that, it's so powerful, so liberating, and so profoundly practical, as I'll get to. Now, another way of considering this that I see as really, really helpful is that the feelings that we have are a guide to bring us back to our true nature of peace, resilience, tranquility, clarity. And whenever I create an experience psychologically, I can see and be conscious that I'm creating it and dreaming that up and that it's not the true self. And as I wake up from those experiences, I automatically return to feeling love, calmness, and clarity. And I return to that, the me that I am under all the thinking. And that's the me that's endlessly resilient and resourceful. Earlier today, the phrase, feelings are love letters from God, came to mind. And I don't mean God in terms of religious ideas about what we think that might mean, but as a pointer to that we have a true nature beyond our ideas, and at the heart of it all, a beautiful feeling that our feelings can always point us to. And one of the things I've become so grateful for that I never thought I would is that when I see that any stress or worry or pressure that I ever create, it's coming from me and my thinking. And I can tell by those feelings when they came up that my thoughts have gone astray temporarily. So I wake up knowing that that thinking is just a falsehood, and I shed it, just like I automatically pull my hand back from a hot stove, or pull back a cup of really hot tea from my lips until it calms down. The more I do that and wake up, and the more love that I feel, the more I enjoy my life and the more relaxed I am. And as a result of that, and as I live in that space, I can do the same things in my life with so much more ease. And it's a game changer. And returning to that original definition of resilience, it means to return to our original nature. And each time that we see beyond the noise in our heads to that space beneath, we return to that space of our innate health, our innate well-being, our innate resilience, which at the heart of that is what I like to refer to as our psychological immune system. And when it comes to getting over, physical wounds, it's useful to consider that our bodies are naturally designed to heal and adapt. And I've also come to see that as really true for us psychologically. Now, if we get a cut on our finger or wherever, we never doubt that it's going to heal. Okay, so the blood clots, the wound closes up and a scab forms, and it always heals as long as we don't keep picking at it. And we might pick at the scab that we have for a while, but then we realize that that just gets in the way of healing quickly. So we can insightfully wake up that it doesn't make sense to do that, and we stop it and we heal better. And with psychological and emotional healing and resilience, our health, it comes from that same power within us. And as we stop picking at the scabs of the psychological wounds that we have, like the painful memories and thoughts that come up, we get out of the way of our psychological immune system and allow it to do its thing, and we live in that space that's our health. And when you understand where your resilience is in that space of innate health inside of you, it helps us heal. And looking in that direction is instantly healing. It's beyond time. And over time and in the moment, that's how you get healthier psychologically, by returning to that health that you are within you, which is that love, that beautiful feeling. And it's also the key to solving whatever problems you have from a deeper space of resilience. And when it comes to solving problems, the answer is never in that same level of thinking that the problem appeared with, but it's a higher level of consciousness. And as Einstein said, we can't solve the problems that we have with the same level of thinking that created them. And as Sid Banks said in one of his lectures, he put it this way: as the level of conscious state rises, the knowledge to fix all your problems will come. And the simplest way and direct path to that higher level of consciousness or space within you is by feeling that love that's always there underneath your thinking. And another way of referring to that space is wisdom, the space in which all the answers that we seek come from and come through. And as we drop all the negativity and surrender to that beautiful feeling, that love, that's where all your health, your creativity, your clarity, your resourcefulness, and your resilience is. And it's only ever one thought away, one feeling of presence away. And another thing about resilience is that psychologically we can see that the only thing to ever get over in your experience, it comes from thought, not an external reality. Sure, external reality exists, but psychologically, resilience is getting over thought. And as you see to the heart of the fact that you think, it will free you up no end. And that resilience is only ever a thought away. It's only ever a feeling of presence away. And as a bonus, it's like the more you feel into that, the more you can see that you don't have to wait for situations to be fully resolved before feeling a deeper clarity of mind. And that doesn't mean not addressing things. It's that you can address what needs to be addressed from a much clearer, healthier mind. And as you wake up to that reality that your feelings change independent of circumstances, and you wake up to that deeper, truer, factual reality where regardless of what's happening, you're always at core, perfectly whole, complete, and free to be at your best and proceed from here. And when you notice you're always at your best when your mind is clearest, then the more and more sense it makes to see that you can and ongoingly drop those experiences that fog up your perspective. So, as an invitation in bringing this one to a close, whenever you notice yourself creating one of those experiences you don't want, such as worry, stress, pressure, upset, whatever it is, simply notice it. And you can notice from the feeling. And as you do, and naturally begin to drop your thinking that created that, just for a moment, you return to that innate feeling of resilience, presence, and love. And this creates calmness and allows you to directly access the intelligent energy that is within you that knows how to create and operate all things. And it's always ready to bring you new and fresh perspective and imagination and solutions. And from that space of presence, when you feel into it and get a sense of it, what occurs to you to do now? And perhaps nothing initially, and that's okay. And perhaps it's a new thing to move towards or fresh ideas to try. But whatever happens, have fun opening up to that love and resilience at the heart of you. See what occurs to you. And I'll talk with you soon.